Hey, motherfuckers. Yeah, I said that. I said motherfuckers. This is an 18 plus only podcast.
Is it?
Unless you don't care. Unless you don't care if I swear, then you know it's all good. Welcome. That's John. I'm Sick
Hi, I'm John.
Steve.
Hey, that's Sick Steve.
Right.
I seem to recall, like, 2 episodes ago, we had Sick Steve also, so, you know.
It's the fresh air, dude. It's literally killing me.
Yeah. I mean, at least this doesn't sound nearly as bad as, last time when you had the flu or something.
Yeah, when y'all thought I was dying of COVID.
It almost sounded like COVID,
fun.
but it wasn't,
Right. It was a rough situation. It's not been easy for me over the past 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of is what it is, but that's all right. We're here.
We are here.
I was about ready, and we're here to discuss a very fun topic that you said that your wife suggested.
I think she was the one.
That's really dope, because I like this, because, I've done it a lot, and you've done it a lot, and I've learned it from you. So yeah, welcome. I'm rambling.
He is rambling, but that's okay. That's what he's here for. Right. Welcome, one and all.
I'm the color commentator guy.
Yeah. Welcome, one and all, to the Flycast. We are just a couple of nerds who love playing D&D, have a decent amount of DM experience between us, started answering questions from the small community we have, and decided, hey, what better way to talk about this stuff and answer those questions than to just go ahead and start this podcast that we've been talking about for a while. So, we've been doing this since December or so, somewhere around there. Got a good long stream going. Yeah, we've skipped a few weeks for sure, but this is episode 17, I think. So yeah, we've been going for quite a while. But yeah, that's who we are, what we do. We normally kind of chat about a topic for the first half and then take some questions for the second half. So if you have not previously, wherever you're watching this, there should be a link somewhere, or listening, whatever. There should be a link somewhere to the Discord. Go ahead and join the Discord if you have not before. That way you can leave questions and hear about our topic for next week, and find out whatever else we're doing, all that fun stuff. So all that said, this week our topic is home brewing items.
I do have a Viking-esque beard.
Viking-esque beard, yes. Yeah. I suppose
yours
we both
is still
do.
thicker than mine, but mine's like, it's getting there. If I let it go much longer.
But yeah, I decided we were going to go ahead and talk about home brewing items. Figured that would be a fun one to talk about. Magic items, mundane items, whatever, but just kind of like the whole idea of 5e does some things really well. One of the things I think it does great is just kind of providing you with a blank slate and a platform to just kind of add stuff or create stuff as you see fit, and kind of tweak it and give it some flavor and make it fit. So we kind of figured we would talk about a little bit of that, how we do it, how to do it. So without further ado, Steve, what do you think about homebrewing items?
I love it.
This is generally how we start the conversation. I just say, Steve, talk, and, we go from there.
We all have skills in this life, and we all know that I can ramble like a babbling brook.
Yeah.
So I'd say the easy answer is I love it. The first homebrew item I did was my first campaign, and I made Mjolnir. Because John was like, motherfucker, you better give me Thor's hammer. And I was like, okay. And so I found a couple of the items that in the dungeon master guide that very much resembled it. And because I knew where the adventure was going and how I wanted to portray the heroes as like these really super powered guys and gals or whatever we had at the time, I think they were all guys, that I took some things from that hammer and then I added upon it that made it really cool. Like, just so that way it also helped his character, because I tailored it to help him not use spell slots. So he could use the hammer to do certain things. He could fly with it. It had all the cool things that Thor's hammer in the comics does. Like, you can't lift it if you're not worthy. or if you're not its master or whatever, it returned to him. It just like little things where most DMs will be like, God, Steve, that's broken. But I was able to adjust my encounters, for those items. So it was just really cool. I really love to build certain items specific to characters. And sometimes I just build something random and be like, I'll see something and be like, that's good, but what can I do to change it to make it feel better for like whoever it's going to go to? So that's really my thought, to start. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's one really good way to do things. Like I do I do things kind of both ways, I guess. Like, there's plenty of times where I will make an item and just kind of drop it and be like, I have no idea, like I don't have a person in mind that this is going to go to, but I think it's kind of cool, and the party will have some fun with it. For the most part, though, I do kind of think about I like to know what, especially if we're talking magic items, or even just, like, fun, unique stuff, I like to know what my players have so that I can try and spread it out a little bit. Like I'll feel real bad if I've given, one character like 5 really cool things and another character is sitting over there with their starting equipment. So I do like to try and make sure that I know kind of where everyone is so I can try and hand stuff out to someone equally. But yeah, I think a lot of times it does kind of start from there. If I'm going to create an item, is like, what does this player do? What are they going to like? What are they going to have fun with? And kind of move forward from there. Not always, but usually. I think one of the most difficult things to do in 5e, honestly, though, is to try and balance those items. Because I think
it definitely makes it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit just before we started, too, but it just... The 5e system is not built to allow you to continue to get new and better equipment, right? Like, I came into D&D from, like, an RPG, like, video game RPG background, something along the lines of, like, Dragon Age, or even like if you want to go with like the Diablo-esque and whatnot, like games where like you literally need to be even like Skyrim, like where you're probably changing out a weapon every couple of levels or something like that. Whereas D&D 5e, it's like at level 1 you get longsword. At some point, you might get longsword +1, and you will end the game with longsword +1, maybe +2. And it's like, really? Like,
which is still
15, 20 levels, and there's 3 weapons that I've had this entire time. So, like, and that's fine. That's the way the game is made. But if you want to have fun with it and start, like, homebrewing some items, give it some different abilities and whatnot, it can be really difficult. I know when I first started DMing, I really screwed up because I really liked that concept of being able to, like, upgrade your equipment and get better stuff as you go on. And I had a player who I was allowing to, like, enchant precious stones and then socket them into her weapon, and like I had a cleric who was rolling a short sword, the d6 for the short sword, and then it did an extra like d6 necrotic damage, an extra like d4 fire damage, and like a d8 something else. Like I don't even remember what all it did. And I'm just like,
it's really cool.
Maybe I've done a little too much on this.
No, so, like, I mean, on the flip side, though, it's really cool from a player perspective to get something like that. It does put a little bit more work on, like you said, the balancing side, but like you can always balance it. But like if you're wanting to save yourself a little bit of work, definitely tone it down a little.
Yeah.
But if I would definitely, my eyes would gleam if I got that as a player, though. I'd be like, holy shit, this is strong.
Right, and I don't want to take away the funness of, like, getting new fun and shiny objects, right? Like, I love homebrewing items. I love creating items. I've just kind of learned to tone down what I give players and whatnot. But I still like giving it out all the time. Like, the new game that I started, well, they might have found it session 1, but they didn't find it until the second session. But I've got, I had some items that they already have now, that nothing crazy, like mostly mundane, but there's a spool of, I created a spool of silver thread, that will have a purpose later on down the line unless they sell it,
right?
Which they were talking about doing. So we'll see.
Well, they do.
But yeah, if they do, they do. But I think that's fun, and I have an idea for it, but I don't want to go in too much detail right now until that actually happens. But I think it can be fun to create either very mundane magic items or even just like flat out mundane items that have a fun mechanic to them. I think one thing that really stands out is the tower shield that I gave to Dash. I thought that was a lot of fun. It's so a shield is normally +2 to your AC. I made this one, it's a +3 to his AC, but it's so big it lowers his movement by 5 feet. I thought that was a lot of fun. There's nothing magic about it. It's just a big ass shield, so it makes him harder to hit. But there is a little bit of a drawback to it. I think that was a lot of fun. Have you made any other?
Still use it.
Yeah. I mean that's currently what your level 11, I think, character is.
Yeah, and I'm
hauling out.
Perfectly fine with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you think of any, like, I don't know if you've done a ton of like mundane item creation. Can you think of anything?
Not a ton of mundane item creation, because I think by the time I think about it, I mean, and I'm super guilty of this all the time, I'm forgetful. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
So I'm normally more focused on big picture items versus
Right.
small items, just because, like, if I have an idea where things are going, I try to make sure the players are prepared for it. Because I'm really guilty of not wanting to send you in unprepared. Like, I want you to have things that will let you put up a fight, unless it's just designed to be, okay, this can kill you. You can't always run, but normally when I'm running like heroic campaigns, I always try to make sure they're prepared. But in Strahd, I did that a little less, except for like with the new people, because they were brand new to the game. Now, I didn't homebrew things per se, but I let them roll on a magic chart, and we found some cool things that they could take with them in the adventure. But the small things, like I think I gave you once like a book that helped with your charisma, and then you turned it into a dirty book of limerick, which was really hilarious.
Yeah.
So I don't think I necessarily created that. You just took it and then
I mean, you did give me, like, you did make the item, so it was like a +1 to your charisma when you read this book. I don't know,
which isn't huge.
Yeah, and I'm not certain if you made it or you found it somewhere, but it's not like, I'm almost positive it's not in the Dungeon Master Guide. So either way, like, and that's like an idea right there, guys. If you're like anyone listening to this, if you're struggling coming up with your own ideas for homebrew items, literally like go on Donjon, or just Google like ideas for homebrew magic items 5e, and you'll find some cool stuff. There's some great stuff out there, especially for some more like mundane ideas. If I can't think of stuff, there's Donjon has what's called like a minor magic item creator or generator or something like that. I can't remember if that's what it's called or not, but like they have very, very subtle effects. I've got another page bookmarked somewhere that's like 100 magic items that are better than nothing. And a fun title, but like they can be fun. And you can have a lot of fun with that. I don't remember what I was saying but so like, I mean, that totally counts. Like that was a good magic item that was fairly small, but I still had a lot of fun with it.
And I don't super useful too, because like if you get a plus to any stat, especially if it's a stat that say you're just L garbage with,
right? Which Nameless was terrible with charisma.
I think he had a 5 or something like that. It was hilarious because he was so nice.
Yeah,
that it was hard for me to be like, well, you can't. Yeah, it was really. It was a fun character to DM for, to be honest. It was. I took that weakness and I made it into story. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So like he would earn your friendship by doing things for you or giving you drinks, and who couldn't turn that down?
Right.
I mean, yeah, you may be a little ugly, Nameless, but you're a good guy. But yeah, I think one of the things, maybe this goes along with homebrewing, maybe it doesn't, but like when I do my worlds, like when I do like my homebrew worlds and stuff, I try to limit what characters can buy in a city and for how long. Because let's be honest, sometimes you're gonna just hit the jackpot. You got so much gold coming out of your pockets, you're gonna have somebody create something. Well, maybe they can, maybe they can't. I always have a
Right.
rule that I can make maybe like a medium-sized town, like if they have a wizard or something, maybe able to do like a +1 and maybe homebrew something that way. Or even a large city, sometimes I only let it go up to +2, and then it's expensive. Like +3 items, like these artifact level items, you gotta find in a dungeon. Get your
Right.
ass out of the city, go adventure somewhere, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, I normally like, because I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of that, in my major cities, you can, like, I'll let you buy most of what's in the player's handbook, right? Like,
Right.
probably very rare or lower, maybe even a little bit higher than that, I don't know. But yeah, like, even I wouldn't let you find an artifact just in, Furto and Unicorn's Magical Emporium or whatever
Right.
it's called.
Because
Like,
you wanna turn
you
that
gotta
into an
find that
adventure.
shit. Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I think, shoot, I was gonna say something and now I lost my train of thought. Oh well.
Oh, let me ask you something, because you've done this for me before, but like what I'd like to do sometimes is if a player messages me on the side and be like, "Hey, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Do
Mhm,
you have any ideas where my character might be able to find it?"
mhm,
I'll take that suggestion and I'll be like, "Okay, whether they find it or not is irrelevant," and I'll start playing around with like different items,
right.
and then maybe I'll build it and then
Mm.
see where I want to put it, have it in like my back pocket or something. Like you can't just find it randomly in the owlbear's nest like we did with Grady's staff. But
Yeah.
this is how we learn
Right.
moments. Yeah. Which still provided us with a lot of story. Yes, it was a little broken because it was early level, but it provided some
Yeah, it
goodies, let's
worked.
be
It
honest.
worked. It was fine.
But I'll do that sometimes. Like I'll build something. I'm really big in customizing it towards the player. I know I've already said that, but it's
Mhm.
with my
No,
style
I
of
mean, I think,
customizing items. That's what I
again,
normally
like,
do.
sometimes I'll do stuff that's just like, I just think this is fun. We'll see. But most of the time, a item is. I think it's a ruby, not a diamond. I could be wrong. But yeah,
For
Megan's
the
looking
animal,
for a Wiccan.
it's a diamond.
I'm gonna look it up here in just a
I'm
second, just
almost
to make
certain
sure.
it's a diamond.
But it doesn't matter. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I normally will do the same thing, to tailor it to the player. So go ahead. You were talking though.
I think there was and I may be jumping the gun here, but I remember the question like, "What was your favorite homebrewed item?" And mine was the bow that I got from the other campaign, because it
Yeah.
was it was really tailored to
Uh,
me. It
what was it? The
also
Bow of
gave
the
me a
Ancients or something like
flaw.
that? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it also gave me a unique flaw because I played that character really emo, and basically it was forcing me not to get myself killed. Because the character was super interesting, but sometimes when I play a specific type of role, and I think I've had this conversation with Jordan, I do one of two things. I try to keep in the middle, but I'll min max a little bit, but I'll take that and I'll build that character and I will role play that character to a T. And Dalton had a lot of baggage and stuff. So John makes me this bow because the character's interesting. I think he just didn't want me to get it killed, which was fine. I enjoyed playing it. But it had all these really cool abilities that boosted my wisdom. It made me not afraid of things, because being afraid sucks. You get
And
disadvantaged.
this was an artifact. This was a very
This was
powerful
an
item.
artifact level item, but and I was always grateful for it. I
Mhm.
never to this day I'm still like, that was probably the coolest item I've ever had. He put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it really was tailored to my character. And I was able to play off of that too. I was able to take that intrinsic flaw and be a little bit more careful as a character, because there's no way Dalton's getting rid of this bow. It's beautiful. It has the shape of these turtle people on there that he's so fond of,
Mhm.
and it just gave us like a good outlet to tell more of his story and his potential character growth. So that's another thing. I think when we homebrew an item, sometimes we can give the characters a chance to develop, whether
Mhm.
for good or evil. I mean, let me like I did that for you with your wizard character, where I was like, okay, let's see how far the rabbit hole is going to
Yeah.
go, and we both talked about it and we were cool with it.
Right.
And basically, I turned him into a devil But it was
Yeah.
cool. It was super cool. Unfortunately, he had to leave the party early, but you got a great bard out of it, and we brought him back. But that
Yeah.
was another thing, is maybe not necessarily the item has to be homebrewed, but maybe something that the character has done and the story gets a little bit more tailored toward him, a homebrew like situation to get a certain ability, well, for good or for evil.
Well, I like that. I like making the acquisition of an item really like meaningful, or like having like gaining an item, or the quest to get an item or whatever be a big deal. I think I was listening to Matt Colville, because of course it was Matt Colville, because I name drop him all the damn time. But
hey man, he's got great ideas. I'm not gonna fight it anymore. He's a good DM. He's
he
not
is.
necessarily my style, but
Well,
he's got good things.
He's got really good ideas. I really like his videos. Anyway, he was talking about how, like, back in the day, the focus was not so much on leveling, because like in 5e and other editions, but in 5e, you, like, whenever you level up, you gain access to these new abilities and whatnot, and your equipment is for most classes, most of the time, is completely secondary to the cool abilities that you get when you level up. He was talking about how, like, back in the day, you used to not get so excited about leveling up. Like, yeah, you got like little bonuses here and there, kind of, but it wasn't really about that. It was more the really cool gear that you got as you kind of like would go on certain adventures. And I really like that idea, and I think that's something that 5e is sorely lacking, because again, like, if you give too powerful of an item, now you've got to do a whole lot of work to try and rebalance stuff, and you know, you can figure out how to do that, but it can be like, then that can almost like discourage you from giving your party cool stuff. That's neither here nor there. But he was talking about how, like, he remembers this one adventure where they had to go get this sword, and this sword it was like this sword forged by his ancestors that only his character could possibly wield, and it had so much backstory and baggage to it that, like, his character wielding that sword was the coolest thing ever. And that, like, I think we should try and like I love the idea of trying to take something like that and implement it into where we are right now. Quest. Like, turn that into something huge. Like you were talking about with that bow. That bow, like, became so much a part of who Dalton was. The hammer, Mjolnir, became so much a part of who Titus was. I think you know, we've talked a little bit about kind of the lower end and more mundane items that you can have some fun with, but I think especially like the higher end items should feel like that. It should feel like, oh, you know, you can just rattle off a stat sheet and, like, yeah, it's a +3 to hit, and it gives me advantage on con checks and whatever, but then come up with some lore behind it too. Like, why is this particular item so worth seeking out, like, and why was it in the tomb of the ancient necromancer or whatever? Like, I think you can have a lot of fun with a quest and backstory and lore behind a certain weapon. I think we kind of sometimes get a little carried away with sentient weapons, but you can have a lot of fun with that too, right? Like, maybe but like, if you introduce a sentient weapon, okay, why though? Like, why is the sword talking to me? Maybe the soul of the person who forged it is trapped inside, and that's who's speaking to you. Like, I don't know. Stuff along that line can make just the acquiring of a weapon or an item so much fun, and it can have a quest to get it, and then a quest to kind of figure out what all it can do, and then maybe this thing is bad news, and now you have another quest to find out how to get rid of it because there's a curse, and now I can't get rid of it. I don't know. But I think doing a lot of that stuff can be a lot of fun.
That just gave me an idea, because one of the things I'm wanting to work on is slowing the game down and just letting the players do what they do. Because I'm actually really bad about pushing things too quickly.
Yeah.
So I think, like, and that goes in with, like, let's search for weapons of some kind. Let's try to find something. So for that particular arc, and this is an idea that I'm, you know, maybe, and I'll run it by you, is for that particular arc of searching for this homebrewed item, slowing the leveling down. Just do not give them any experience points. the whole point of the quest is to get this item. That in itself is the reward.
Right.
You may make a little money along the way, but it's like not it's you're taking away from your main storyline. We're adventuring over here trying to find this. Now it may seem a little weird to me, but to me it's an idea of trying to slow your main story down and not fly through it.
I love that, and I think it's tricky because I feel like 5e sets the expectation that the end-all be-all is leveling up, and that's what everyone's looking forward to. But I think it could be so much fun if, and I mean, you got to get your players on board with this too, right? Because if you just slap them in the face with, oh no, that Baylor you just killed is worth 0 XP, get over it. Like, I mean, if they're not ready for that going in, that can just be kind of like, oh, that's lame.
Right.
But that's also where milestones can come in and be really interesting. It's like, you level when I say you level. And as long as the party's okay with that, and you're not absurd about it, that could be kind of fun. I really do like that idea. I do love the idea of questing not just for XP, but also like to get that item or whatever, and that can make this whole arc wasn't about leveling. It was about getting this thing that so and so's character really needed. It could be really interesting. So I like that. We are roughly halfway through, so there's plenty more that we can talk about here, but we've got some questions, and then we'll continue our discussion here in just a bit. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we will be back in about 3. So see you guys soon.
Like the beat started to drop, and then it stopped, and then it restarted, and it kind of threw my rhythm off. That's okay.
Yeah, that might have been my fault. Somebody may have had the volume muted when I started the song, and
What, you're human? Oh, heaven forbid.
That's what happens when you're hosting the podcast and are the tech producer, and so.
To
whatever.
be fair, you don't want me to do that because I would be like, oh, what's this button do? And then I'd probably hit that.
James says great audio work. Yeah, thanks, buddy. At least he gave me bits for it. He gave me bits for it, so it's okay. Go ahead. Insult me as much as you want.
You get one flaw, like when you're normally just okay spot on your audio all the time. The one time you flub, somebody catches you.
Hey, it's cool. It's cool.
You're a master at what you do. I delegate that off whenever I don't have you in my games. I delegate that off so I can focus on other things.
Yeah,
you've got me spoiled. I'm spoiled.
Anyway. With all that, welcome back to the Flycast.
Hey, welcome.
We've been having a good old time here chatting.
Yeah, man.
Talking this week about home brewing items. That conversation is always going to take a turn towards magical items, obviously, but talked a little bit about mundane items too. But just kind of how to make homebrew items and use them, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of been what we've been talking about. We're going to go ahead and keep talking about that here. We've got a few questions in our Discord, so we're going to go ahead and go through those. Anyone here watching live, feel free to pop more questions in chat, and we'll try and get to that too. But we're going to go through what we got here in Discord, and then keep talking about this subject until we're done. Whatever.
Right.
First question. Do you tend to homebrew magical items more than non-magical? If so, why? Yes.
Yeah.
As far as why,
the shinier the better.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Like, it's just kind of trying to make them more fun and more interesting. I guess, I don't know.
More story-centric.
I think that's a good question. I honestly want to homebrew more mundane items, and kind of make them more fun. I think I just kind of had a hard time doing so because, especially if you're talking about a weapon, right? If I'm talking about a weapon,
very difficult.
It's almost impossible because the way 5e has done it is, I mean, most weapons share the same hit die, right? Like a long sword or a battle axe or a warhammer all share a d8 hit die. So by that reasoning, whatever weapon you want, you can more or less, like, I'm not even going to bother homebrewing a weapon. You just take the stat and call it whatever you want to. Like, we've done this before, turning your rapier into a saber, because, you know, you might have someone who wants kind of that, you know, like the cavalry saber type of flavor to it. But it's the same weapon as the rapier, basically. So we're just calling it a saber and changing it. Yeah. Right. So... And I mean, there's plenty of other examples we can talk about, right? You've got your
nunchucks.
Yeah, especially if you're going to start talking like monk weapons, right? Like, I've used chakras before and just used a monk die. So it's just very difficult. You can't really homebrew a weapon all that well unless you start to add some sort of special property to it, which innately is going to turn it into a magical item. That said, it can be a lot of fun to homebrew non-magical like armor. Like, right, if you, what if I were to make a helmet? If you're wearing the helmet, you get a +1 to your AC. Just a mundane helmet. I don't know. That's kind of a cool idea. Or like that tower shield, right? Like, that's not magical. It's just has a little bit of a different mechanic to it. Yeah.
A leather thong for your hand when you're using a bow.
Yeah.
And give you like either a plus to hit or like a one-time advantage because you're not using your fingers and shredding your fingers, something like
that. Yeah. That's a great idea. I think that's a fun one. That's a good way to get like just a little bit of a boost, a little special something, a little tweak.
Right.
I also really like the idea of, like, there's all these different tools that you can get in 5e, but no good rules for them. It mostly just kind of comes to, I don't know, DMs say they roll a thing and a thing happens. But I really do like kind of coming up with some systems to make, like, an herbalism kit or a poisoner's kit for sure, kind of more useful and fun. And that way, like, that's not like an herbalism kit is not a magic item. Now, it might make a potion, which could be magical, but like the kit itself isn't. And homebrewing a way for it to work, I think, is a lot of fun. Same with a poisoner's kit and whatnot. I was particularly thinking non-weapon type stuff. Yeah, for sure. And that's what you can have fun with the mundane stuff. It's just, I think normally when you talk about creating items, people automatically go to weapons and then automatically go to magic, and that's why.
I like when you do,
but I like mundane stuff. Yeah, I've done that.
It's like that old school AD&D feel where you're masterworking the item.
Yeah,
and then like if you say you get enough gold later, you want to get it enchanted,
right?
You can, but this is a superior crafted item.
Yeah, that's just kind of a standard homebrew across all my games. Is I have a you can get a masterwork item. Like, a master craftsman can make an item that like is a masterwork status, and that it gives it a +1 to hit and a +1 damage, but it's not magical. And then later on, a masterwork item is strong enough to withhold an enchantment, and you can later on get it enchanted to make it magical. Whereas your standard longsword that you start the game with cannot become enchanted and magical. That's just kind of a rule that I use so that I can have fun with kind of some enchanting and craftsmanship rules and whatnot. So I guess that is a good example of technically mundane weapons.
Right.
But yeah, I think for the most part tends to be magical again. Shinier, more fun. I think another cool thing too, and a good reason for why there are weird magic items in the world is apprentice enchanters have to start learning with something, right? So, for instance, in the Wine Run Adventure Tour game, I made this enchanted belt that so I have lore behind it, but the belt, as soon as you like fasten the belt, it magically unfastens and drops the wearer's pants around their ankles. um, so I gave that out to the party, and they've had fun with it, of course, because I knew they would. But like, I have this lore behind it of, yeah, it was an item that a apprentice wizard enchanted for the first time because they wanted, just to create something fun to where, like, at a command word, the belt would take itself off so they don't have to worry about it. Well, they screwed up the enchantment, and now every time it's fastened, it instantly comes. So that's just kind of like a fun little thing, and it's a fun way to kind of populate your world with magic items that could be maybe less powerful than like the artifacts. And it's like, well, yeah, apprentice enchanters have to start somewhere. That's why there's a candle that never goes out. What purpose does that serve? Not much, but someone was learning enchantment, and they did it. So you can have fun with that sort of thing. What's the coolest thing in your opinion that you've homebrewed? So we've talked about like some cool items that we've seen, but Steve, that you have made, what do you think is the coolest thing that you have made?
Before I knew any better, Mjolnir.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Because I gave that weapon a lot of properties to literally turn that character into a superhero.
Yeah.
And I was able to balance it. And at the time, I didn't even think much about it. I'm like, it's not a big deal. And it wasn't. I was able to balance my creatures where like it wasn't like one-shotting things. Mm-hmm. Although now I kind of wish, looking back, that I had encounters where you could one-shot stuff, because that would have been really cool.
Right.
Neither here nor there. But that one, what else? Let me think. I know there was I took the base of a Sword of Speed and I changed it to give the rogue, give Brett a second attack. Because rogues don't ever get second attacks.
Right.
Because they normally do a crap ton of damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be kind of cool that he could do that. Because like we had a lot of melee who could. And like if he missed, he's like, well, kind of SOL. Right. And I didn't think it was broken, but like when he did hit, oh man, was it nasty. I like that one.
Well, you still only get the sneak attack once a turn, so it's really not like giving a rogue an extra attack is really not that big a deal, but it does make it more fun for them. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else off the top of my head. It may be just because my ears are pounding, but I'm sure I've made cooler items, but those are the only two that come to mind at the moment.
You've done some pretty cool stuff. Those pistols that you made were pretty cool.
Yeah, I forgot. I really loved those things, and nobody could get any use out of them. That was a feels bad moment, because like nobody could really get any use out of them.
That's an example of making a cool item. Like I've said, I do this sometimes too. Just making a cool item without thinking about the party necessarily, and thinking about who in the party is going to use this item, that's not a bad thing, right? Like, if your party ends up coming across an item, they'll still be like, wow, that's really cool. And if at the end of the day, all they end up doing is selling it, like, at least they still get something out of it, and they got to enjoy the thing that you made. Like, it's still cool.
I forgot about that one. Thank you.
Yeah. As far as me, I'm not sure. Like, I've got a few that I really like. Like, I really liked that bow that I gave to Dalton. That was cool. In the same campaign, I made shield? There is Sif's shield, and then there was the Stormbringer sword. That was pretty cool. I liked that because I got to use some old lore in that. I created so I liked the Vorpal longsword there that I gave to Megan's character. Like, that was just fun, strong. Man. Like, that was fun.
It was fun.
And I knew it was overpowered, and I meant for it to be overpowered. But it was fun. It was. And then I tried to like make some cool items for the rest of you guys. I liked the whisk that I made. So Jordan's character took that chef feat, and then I made a magical whisk that made him basically just make better treats. Which I thought that was fun. Funny. I thought it was funny. I really liked it. Good. I think I really like the hidden blade. Obviously, I stole it straight from Assassin's Creed, but like I like the kind of mechanics that I've come up with it. So Grady's character is a rogue in the Wine Women Adventure Tour game, and he's got this hidden blade that just kind of shoots out of his wrist there, which is pretty cool. I think I really liked. This might be my favorite. Do you remember the pistol that I made in the the first Wine Women Adventure Tour iteration.
I got a kill with that thing.
It was I named
dope.
it the Necromantic Pistol.
It was
and I there was this lore behind it. It was the first pistol who ever existed in my world, and I've changed some of the history now. But the lore behind it was that it was some sort of strange mystical weapon that no one had ever seen before, and it is said that it is so loud it can wake the dead. That's the lore behind it. But the truth is, if you fire it and roll a natural 1, I think it is, a zombie rises from the ground where you shoot.
That did happen, too.
Which I just thought that was a really cool, like a fun little, well, legend has it can wake the dead, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's loud, we get it. And it's like, no. It actually raises a zombie. So I really like that one. I thought that was fun.
That was a fun item, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember shooting it and I rolled a 1, and then there's this crap.
Oh, and then so this is Megan's last question, I think. But she also asked, "What's the coolest thing the other person has homebrewed?" So for me, what's my favorite thing that you've made, and for you, your favorite thing that I've made?
Bow.
I think we've talked a little bit about this. You say my bow. I'd say
the bow I really liked.
I would probably say Mjolnir also. So we've touched on this, but
really custom. That was really custom to that character.
Yeah,
because I wanted that character, because we talked about the character, about how he was kind of cross-classing with fighter, like he was just badass holy warrior, and it just made sense to build that hammer to complement what he could do, because he had like a negative in dexterity, so being able to fly gave him, like the ability to go into combat better, especially if he's way down in the turn order, or if he's running low on spells, he could throw it.
I could throw the hammer.
Natural 20. Yeah,
I could throw the hammer, which was nice, and then it would come back, and I could throw it again once I got my multi-attack. So that was really cool, and that way I could really embrace the fighter aspect of the character. And then on the cleric side, I certainly had my cleric spells for healing and whatnot, but I was a Tempest cleric, and the hammer had some spells with it, and one of the big ones was Call Lightning. So I would, if we were ever outside, that's what I would do. I would first use Call Lightning, and then for the rest of the combat, I can bonus action just attack with the lightning, and then use my turn to actually be the fighter. And it was really cool. You felt like Thor, man. You're calling down lightning and smacking stuff with a hammer. It was pretty dope. So that was a lot of fun to use for sure. It once I got it, it ended up being and this is really cool, and this is kind of what I was talking about before with items that are so meaningful to the character. That hammer ended up becoming iconic to the character. It ended up being part of who they were. If I didn't have that thing, then the entire way that I approached combat would have been completely different. And I think that's really cool when you can have something that's that big of a impact on the way you play the character, their personality, hell, outside of combat, right? One of the most fun things that's happened in one of your games is when we were in Titus's parents' house, and Tinklepot made a tree appear and didn't realize that it's a giant tree in the living room, so it burst through the roof of the house, and I'm chasing him around you gotta fix that, and he's like, oops, sorry, and he's trying to run away from me, and he turns into a butterfly, and then I throw the hammer at him, and all this fun stuff. Yeah.
It was crazy. That was a really fun one. I enjoyed that, and that's the way it was with the bow with me, because if people started to get too close, and I'd turn it to a story aspect, I'd put the bow away. No matter how strong the bow was, I'd pull out these moon touch swords. Granted, and they were in the grand scheme of things, they're pretty mundane as far as magical items go, but I kept those swords with me through the entire campaign, and I loved them. They gave me light, they counted as magic items, and they worked great, because you knew Dalton was pissed when he puts the bow down and pulls out these little swords, and he would because he'd get basically 4 attacks if you got in close.
Yeah,
it made people think twice.
Offhand. Yeah,
right.
From our damage slut, what is the stupidest item you've seen homebrewed, and why was it so broken?
Broken?
And homebrewed, so the Staff of the Woodlands does not count.
No, I know. Jimmy's axe was pretty broken. It did a shit fuck damage.
That's fair. That was so. What all did it do? It was like an extra die on the crit.
Right, and then when he got brutal critical, it was just, and of course it's Jimmy. He just crit all the time.
He ended up that would have meant that he would have ended up rolling 4 d12s, I think, on a crit.
Right. I mean, it was, from a damage perspective, it was pretty broken.
Was that the one that had Giant Slayer on it also? So it was like an extra 2d10 on a giant or something like that?
So, because I based that off of the lore of the axe fighting giants, and I kind of loosely tied it between Marvel and historical, like ways. So I think that was pretty broken. There was a couple others, I'm sure, but I don't feel like I've made anything too out of control. Well, I take that back. The Dragonlance. And
that was pretty cool.
For now, it's kind of a hybrid because it's not technically a homebrewed item, but in 5e it doesn't exist because they have not incorporated the world of Krynn yet into their current games right now.
Right.
So I took the stats from the old AD&D books that I could find online, and I made it. It was a +3 weapon. And at the end of the day, that lance, I think it started, because we started at level 11, and that lance lasted all the way through to the rest of the time, because not only was it good against dragons, because you didn't fight them a ton, but it was just good in general, because like you're using your mounted combatant feat, and it was long. It was like 10 feet. You could like literally just, you had reach on it, and it did a lot of damage. So I think maybe broken's not the right word, but very, very, very strong.
Well, it's hard to have anything too broken in that campaign, because the idea was we're just like epic level god tier going up against stuff that should instantly kill anything. So, I mean, it just kind of worked for that game.
It was still strong.
It was pretty powerful.
I think that cool. That one comes to mind because it's kind of homebrewed. It's kind of not. Did it exist? It did, but it didn't. So I had to make it. So yeah, I'd say that was a pretty good one too.
I mean, I think the most broken thing that I've made was that short sword I was talking about, that I let have like 5 gems socketed into it, doing a crap ton of damage.
Jobby's longbow was
that's probably it
too when it first started.
It was just a longbow though. Like I didn't make anything. I did screw up and let him have a longbow. He should have only had a short bow because he was size small, so I screwed that up. But yeah, I mean that was just him having a higher hit die than he should have. But other than that, it was all just ranger stuff. So go figure.
We all know rangers are strong from range, regardless.
Yeah. Let's see. We all know that Steve regrets the Staff of the Woodlands, but is there another item you guys regret giving out? Whether it was whether it's because they can't use it properly or is way too overpowered?
I'm gonna say no. Yeah. I'll answer that on my end, because if I'm the one who gave it, I need to be the one who's responsible for the consequence. So as far as like regrets go, that's on me to balance it, because if I'm struggling with balancing an encounter because I gave you a strong item, that's all on me. So that's just me.
Yeah, I get that. I think there's very little that I regret having given out. The only things that I regret having given out were stuff that I gave out very early on, like when I first started DMing. So I let that sword have too much power.
Hard not to.
The first iteration of the Hidden Blade was way too powerful. I think he got advantage on every attack that he made with it, and he did so like it didn't work.
He's working fools, that's for sure.
There might have been one or two other things, I think, in that specific game that were too powerful. But like, I mean, like you were saying, like I learned from it. You know, again, like
that's all you can do.
My very first few sessions, yeah, sure, I screwed up and gave out too stuff that was too powerful, and then I've learned from it, and ever since I certainly haven't regretted giving anything out. There have been stuff that maybe is a little too powerful, and oh well, you just kind of tweak here and there. My biggest thing is I don't necessarily care if I give out something that is like, overpowered because now the party as a whole is too powerful. I can always fix that on the back end. I don't love if I make a character super powerful and everyone else feels like they're doing nothing in combat, because that sucks for everyone else. So then, like, if I give out something that's too powerful, then I want to anyway try and give out powerful stuff to everyone else, so everyone feels equally badass, and then I'll just buff the monsters on the back end. Like, I'll take care of it on my side, but I want you guys to all have fun equally, rather than being like, well, this is the part where so-and-so does everything and we just stay 50 feet back and watch. That can get lame. But as far as because the party can't use it properly, I don't know. I think there have been some things that I've been excited about, and I've given the party, and they just don't see use for it and move on, and that's fine if they don't think it's as fun as I think it is. But I can't think of anything that, like, I thought would be fun and they just never used. So I don't know.
Now I have made NPCs that I thought was hilarious and cool, and then they get you get them killed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, fuck. I
mean, that's
still technically a homebrewed thing. Yeah.
Have you ever stopped yourself from giving out a magical item?
Yes.
Yeah?
I can't remember the exact circumstance, but I decided at the last second that I didn't want it to be here, and it was too strong for the moment, and I needed to tweak it. Now, that being said, it's a lot of times if I do that, it's literally, and I've only done it maybe once or twice, but it's heat of the moment. I see where the party is, ability-wise, teamwork-wise, and whatever, and if I have this really strong item that's gonna, for the area that they're in currently, let me rephrase, it's where they're at currently, I need to make sure that I hold it back for a little while longer, maybe make a tweak or two. And a lot of times, even when I say make a tweak, sometimes I don't even do that. Sometimes I'll just wait and be like, they don't find this particular item here. Because if I homebrew an item, I normally have a reason for it. Almost always. Somewhere where I'm like, this character can use this. Like, I think I made an item for my Tuesday game that I had Tracy's character in mind, and it wasn't per se a homebrewed item. I think it was some prayer beads, and I rolled on a chart to homebrew some of the spells. Like, one of the spells I came up with was really strong, so I wanted to hold off on giving that until maybe I could find a way to either tweak it, because with the prayer beads, the spell can be cast once a day. So if you're getting an 8th level spell at level 3,
yeah, that's a bit much.
Really hard to deal with. And I liked what it did, though, because it wasn't a damage spell, but it would have given the party a lot of mobility and travel. So I was like, maybe I want to hold off on that, maybe change that bead, maybe homebrew something different, maybe give it some rules. I still haven't tweaked that yet, but it's in the back of my mind because I'm actually going to start trying. Hopefully, let's do Scouts Honor. Start planning my stuff again, get out of my funk, and start getting back to what I love to do. So, but I've got to balance my time a little better because I need to get away from the computer when I work for at least an hour, even if that means I'm getting off late. Maybe start my games at 9 and take an hour away so I can exercise and eat and be a healthier me.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
That's the plan so far.
I'm
rambling.
I don't think I've ever stopped myself from giving out a magic item. There have been, like, if I take the time to make something, I want to give it out. Like, I can't wait. It's the same way, like, if I buy someone a Christmas gift or whatever, I can't wait to give it to them. I want to see it. Yeah. So it's
very,
it's the
very
same
rare.
thing.
I think I've only done it once or twice. So yeah.
It's the same thing with me. So I have, and it's very, very difficult for me to do, but I have had situations where I've had an item in a place and the party just doesn't find it. And, okay, they don't get it. Most of the time, what I have done in the past is then I move it somewhere else, or that I'm like, oh, and that investigation check of 8 revealed this. But I've gotten better, and I have, and I will. If they don't find it, they don't find it. Maybe I'll move it somewhere else, so that they can potentially find it later because I've put the work in already. But yeah, I've had a hard time with that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back a step. I put a little more thought into this. A magic item that I regretted creating. That item that that you guys got from that with that green dragon where you could use the hero's feast.
Yeah,
that's the only. Okay, I regret making that because it was like
it directly destroyed your all of your strategy going into the fight with the dragon.
Just cucked everything, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm still glad that I did it, but I remember that feeling at the time, going, "What the fuck were you thinking, Steve? Giving him this."
Right.
But at the time when I made it, it made sense. So.
Well, that is all the time we have. This was a really good topic. We might have to do like a part 2 of this at some point and keep going because, like, I know the original like comment that spurred on this topic was, can you do an episode on weapons and items, like how you homebrew some for the party to make sure they're good enough but not OP? We didn't talk a ton about that actual question, to be honest. We just kind of chatted about items and then took questions. So there's plenty more that we could say about this.
Oh, there's so much.
And continue.
It's hard to fit everything in an hour.
We might make this a 2-parter, and probably not next week. We'll probably try and grab a new topic, but somewhere down the line, talk about this again and see what else we can kind of uncover. But for now, that's going to do it. We thank you so much for hanging out with us, those of you here live, or if you're watching or listening later on. Thank you. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you have not joined the Discord, wherever you're watching this or listening to it, there should be a link somewhere. Click that, join the Discord. That way you can drop questions in advance, find out what our topic's going to be, and stay up to date on the other stuff we're doing. Speaking of which, that's Steve. You can catch him streaming over at twitch.tv/SteveOTheDMO. He will stream off and on here. He's been on a real Destiny kick recently, so
yeah, I'm a grinder.
Wait, he's been on Grinder? What? I don't think you can stream that to Twitch, Steve.
No,
that's between you and the other boy.
It's yeah.
Anyway, so he'll be streaming some of that off and on. Never know when he'll be doing it, but he normally throws an announcement in his Discord when he does. Hopefully soon we'll be getting back to games on Sunday and every other Tuesday as well.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye out for that. Over here at twitch.tv/Flycaptain, we will be back tomorrow night. Hey, Heimdall Sight just subbed. Hey, buddy, it's been a while. I haven't heard from you in a bit. Good to see you. Good to see you. But we'll be back here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern with episode 3 of the All Ebrian Rejects. New game has started. We got 4 players. Should be fun. They'll be taking on a necromancer, I think. A couple other things that they've got. They picked up a few quests, so we'll see where exactly they go. But that should be fun. And then this weekend on Sunday, we've got a bonus stream here on Flycaptain Twitch. The Wine Women Adventure Tour session like 16, I think it is. I can't remember. But that will be over here. And the party they're currently exploring the Underdark. Some rumblings going on there. We'll find out what's happening there on Sunday. So we'll be doing that at 1 p.m. Eastern. It should be fun. I haven't played with those guys since last month, actually. So so it should be really cool. We should have a lot of fun doing that. So that's what we got planned. And then, of course, next week we'll be right back here. Stay tuned. Go ahead and, again, follow if you haven't before. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. Peace out.
See you folks later.